Welcome back to Full Tank Truck Talk. Happy to be here with you. I'm your host, Phil Eastman of the Full Tank with Phil podcast. That's where you can catch all of your Cup Series action. But of course, on this channel, we are here to talk trucks, and we'll be doing that once again this weekend because we're heading up to Pocono. Truck Series had a week off, reset, now going back to Pocono, and I've been excited about this one for 2 weeks now. Started my research on the trucks a week early because obviously they weren't racing down in Mexico City. And so really had some opportunity to kind of dig in, made my own charts. Like I was really getting after it here. And one of the other reasons why is because I'll be there. I'm going to be at the truck race on Friday at Pocono. So if you are going to the truck race on Friday, you happen to see me, let me know. Last year, my buddy Derek Yoder, we talked to a couple people who had listened to the podcast that day. So yeah, give me a shout if you're going and you happen to catch me up there, have a beer. Should be a good time. The weather looks great here at Pocono for Friday and into the weekend as well. So last year I was there and bit of a rain delay, I think, towards the end of that race, if I remember correctly. So it doesn't look like we're going to have to deal with that this time around. So I'm excited for Pocono, if you can't tell. Really excited to get up there and see these guys get after it. So to give a very quick race recap, last time we talked on this channel, we were dealing with Michigan, and that race, I think it's a tale as old as time. Like if that race ended after stage 2 or even like into stage 3 where they were running, I think I would have made a fortune. We really predicted a lot of good bets and predicted, if we were to go back and try to redo them, I still think the bets were correct, but that race turned into a bit of a shit show. And that's kind of the thing that you can't really, handicap. Stuart Friesen wins the race, which is like out of left field, but good for him. The 52 truck getting back into the playoffs theoretically. And really came out of left field. But Hocevar dominated that race, which we had an outright on. We had Enfinger, who led a bunch of laps, and we cashed him top 5 and head-to-head, which was good. We were right about Enfinger, and he made us look good. But would have been real nice to get that win for him when all the bigger dogs dropped out. And I think I lost some friends over the Riggs over LaJoy bet. Texted a lot of people, and that one just did not come home. So I was very upset. That one probably stuck in my craw for the longest out of everything with that race, because Riggs was faster than LaJoy, and that was really difficult to see. But we will move past Michigan and start getting into, what we see here now for Pocono. So just a quick setting the table here for this weekend. We've got a 5 p.m. race. I think I saw green flag waving at 5:22. So keep that in mind. And then we have practice and qualifying earlier afternoon on Friday. So it's a one-day show. We've got practice around 12:30, qualifying around 1:35. So small window after qualifying's over. You call it maybe 2:30 to 5:15. Just about 3 hours for the books to re-rack them and stack them. So you might want to get your bets in as soon as possible. And just in case they don't bring, all the stuff back up like head-to-heads and top 5s. So short window, probably the shortest we've seen in a little while now, especially coming off of last time where we had a 2-day show. So let's get to the conversation. My betting card, I'm going to be open and honest here. My betting card for this show today is nice, neat, compact, quick, very easy to follow along with, because these are the bets I'm, get the most conviction on. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be getting excited and just kind of like wheeling and dealing. Maybe I'll send some tweets out the day of, or, Thursday night. I could, be letting loose just because I'm going to the race. I'm getting excited, but these are the bets that I feel, best about. And let's start at the top of the board. Okay. So I've got one outright to talk about here today, and it's not going to shock anyone. It's Corey Heim, and I'm throwing a few units down on Corey Heim going to this race because I don't want to bet against this guy. Plus 110, ridiculously short odds here for Corey Heim. And, some books have him at plus 100. So, DraftKings, Caesars have him a little bit better at plus 110. I don't know what fair odds would be for him. I didn't check that, but I didn't really care. I think this is going to be a big week for us for this show because I think he wins this bet for us here, this outright. And if he does, that's going to cash that over 4.5 wins for the year. So Corey Heim, we're really digging in. So let's talk about why, though. Okay, I don't want to just assume that everyone's, following along here and why I don't really care about the short odds. Last year at Pocono, he had a perfect driver rating. Perfect. 150.0. Unbelievable. And to see it, shout out Derek Yoder. I mean, he got me and my brother-in-law some paddock passes. We were on pit lane when they were doing the driver intros and such. And so we were, behind the wall watching this down there. And Heim qualified second, ran into some trouble on the first start of the race. And so Eckes gets out in front and, he's shuffled. And so it was almost like he started like 7th or 10th, he got to first in 12 laps. Just like really, and every time Eckes went by, you saw the 11 getting closer and closer and closer. And you say like, he's going to catch him in 3 laps. And next time he went by, he was like almost there. So only took him 12 laps after getting shuffled back. He's so fast, and his career history here, and that was in a race where, I mean, you could maybe argue this, but the driver entry list this week at Pocono, you got Carson Hocevar in this race, who's your second betting option at plus 350, which maybe, if you want to be different and try to take a left turn like we did at Michigan and avoid Heim, Hocevar could be a good thing there. But you look at what we had last year. We had Chastain in this race last year. He was a complete non-factor. We had Christian Eckes in this race last year. Nick Sanchez last year. Like, I felt like the top to bottom roster of guys was stronger in last year's race than it is this year. I mean, driving the 07 is Patrick Everlong or something like that. I should probably know his name, but like, I'm not scared of him as a guy dropping down into like better equipment. So, and Brandon Jones driving the 1 truck again. He's got to win here at Pocono, but like, I'm not scared of him winning over Heim. So it just like raw speed and ability standpoint. So Heim, I think in, same equipment, going back to a track where he dominated last year against a group of drivers top to bottom that, if anything, is equal to last year, right? We don't have a Kyle Busch or William Byron or anybody like that jumping down. Equal, maybe weaker field than last year. It's just like writing's on the wall here. He's got 3 starts at Pocono. You know what his finishes are? 4th, 2nd, and 1st. So he learned a little bit in his first start, finished 4th, improved on that 2nd in 2023, and then made it all come together there in 2024. So just 2.3 average finish. That's unbelievable. Now, here's the thing, and this is why I mentioned the sports books kind of maybe see if they can get their odds back up, because he's qualifying because of his finish at Michigan, qualifying kind of like mid-pack a little bit. So his order. So maybe if he doesn't qualify all that well, the books will give us a little bit of a discount there. Maybe they get spooked. He's starting 10th. Maybe they raise it to like plus 150 or something like that. So if this is too short for you, he is, his order is going off mid-pack seat, but I think his just overall speed would maybe offset that mid-pack qualifying order, and he still puts it, pretty close to the front. But the point that I mentioned about him getting shuffled back last year is to say, if he does qualify, 10th or so, I'm not scared at all, like at all. He's going to be fast. So, this is someone that it's tough to really feel good about someone in short odds like this, but all signs are pointing to, Heim time on Friday afternoon. So, Yeah, he's my only outright pick at the moment. Now, like I said, maybe I sprinkle on some guys, longer odds on race day. There are some drivers that, I would feel fine doing that with, but for this conversation, this is like the best bets show. This is my best bet. And I'm sorry if it's not a shocker, but that's what we got. So let's move to the top fives and our placement picks here. So we'll get into it here with someone that we were right about last time around, and it's Grant Enfinger. I like Enfinger here with another top five. This is plus 210 on ESPN. All right. So I feel like summertime is when Enfinger starts to really turn it on. Like there's not that many races left before the playoffs start, and he consistently starts to build up at the right time. And, we saw it last year. He came together and we saw a great race at Michigan. So things are here for us to say, like, wow, plus 210 on ESPN for a top five. That's pretty solid here. So you look at what happened at Michigan. He finished second for us. He led 31 laps in that race. He was very fast. Well, we do see that Michigan is a secondary comp track to Pocono. It's not a direct comp. Pocono for the trucks don't really have a direct comp. We say like Indy would be a similar track, but they don't go to the Indy track anymore. So Michigan's really all we have, and he looked really good at that race. So we'll take it. And then last year, what did he do at Pocono? He did his goddamn job. Like, that's what we want to see from Grant Enfinger here. He started 8th, worked his way up, and finished second. He was average running position was 4th. So, like, we just saw good progression from Enfinger there at that Pocono race. His last 5 starts at Pocono, I'll just read them off to you here, because what we're seeing is him hitting Pocono at the right time. So last 5 starts, 11th, then he had a wreck at 36th place, 17th, 5th, 2nd. And in 8 career starts, he's got 2 top fives. Well, both of them have come in the last 2 years. So what I'm concluding from all this is that he has started to figure out Pocono. And this is a track I talked about in our Cup Series show. This is a track where it's very tough for drivers to find consistency. It's tough to look at, track history and find a guy who's just always good here. It's difficult. And veterans, in my opinion, have an advantage. Well, Grant Enfinger is as good of a veteran as you can find in the Truck Series, year in and year out. So 4 top 10s in 8 races, 50% hit rate. That's solid. Like, that's really good compared to what we're seeing. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, trucks, Xfinity Cups, that's a very good barometer. So I like it. And I like this price, plus 210. I also think that his qualifying order is really going to help. I think he's going to get a good starting position because he's going out last. He's the last guy to qualify. So he puts the car top 5. Like I said, started 8th last year. That would be huge for us to, assume if the books open back up. If he puts it top 5, I don't think plus 210 is going to be available. So Grant Enfinger, ESPN bet, plus 210, really rooting for Grant this weekend. And I think all the data points are there to say, yeah, this is very possible. I don't know why they're sleeping on him. There are other drivers that they have up there that are taking away from, making his odds longer. And I'll say thank you, but I don't quite understand it. So Enfinger, we'll roll with you. The next one is one that I'll throw it up on the screen. Daniel Hemrick, top 5, plus 300. So 3-1 on Caesars for Hemrick to finish top 5. Other books have him at like plus 275. 3-1 on Caesars. I can't pass this up. And from the moment I sat down and started looking at the Truck Series data, I sat down and immediately was like, what's McAnally going to do? I can't get McAnally out of my head. I just can't. And this is a driver that the books, I think, are overlooking a bit here because of the fact that, he hasn't been in the Truck Series, but they should be used to that by now, right? It's 13 races in. Like, they know that he hasn't raced in the trucks. So what are they using to kind of set the line here? I think this is a miss by the sportsbook. So I wanted to call it out on the show. And, digging in here, he's got 2 truck starts in his history, for whatever this is worth. Way back when, 2015, he's got a top 10, driving for I forget who it was. It wasn't Brad Keselowski, Newberry, I believe it was. So that, we'll take it, but it's not to say like, okay, this is why we like him. Xfinity. Now, apples and oranges, but we're trying to establish a driver that seems to have a handle on the track. And so we'll take a top 10 in trucks many years ago, 10 years ago. In Xfinity, he's got 6 starts with 2 top 5s, and he's 5 for 6 finishing inside the top 10. The only one that he didn't was one where he wrecked. So if he's finishing the race, he's finishing in the top 10 in the Xfinity Series. That's pretty damn good. That's the consistency that we're looking for. In the Cup Series, he's got 3 starts, 7th and 13th, both with RCR, and then a 25th place finish with Colleague, I believe. So, getting some good finishes with RCR, that actually is like moving mountains. I know things have changed a little bit since then, but we talked about it on the Cup show. Kyle Busch can't do anything in RCR equipment at this racetrack. Austin Dillon is awful at Pocono in RCR equipment. So Daniel Hemrick getting good finishes in RCR equipment at this track is a pretty, noteworthy thing. And so you take all of that and you say, out of all of his time at Pocono, he will not have been in a better ride than the 19 truck for all things, even on the series, right? The 19 truck is the strongest piece of equipment that he will be in his whole career at Pocono. So that to me is like, yes, let's go and let's see what he can do with this thing. We look at what Eckes has done in the last 3 years. He's got an 8th place finish, a 7th place finish, and a 3rd place finish. Last year, he sat on the pole, and like I said, he got hunted down pretty quick by Heim. And I had Eckes for a top 5 last year, and I remember that was a bit of a sweat because he got bumped back, or they had a strategy situation. There was a rain delay. He had to work his way back, but he worked his way back to a top 5 with 20 to go after the rain, and made it look easy at the end. So I think this team is set up for success. And I think Hemrick is being slept on by the books because his track history from top to bottom shows consistency. And I'm excited about it. I really am. So I think 3-1 on Caesars is a good bet to take. So that's where we'll go. Those are the 2 placement bets there that we have. Like I said, keeping it nice and clean. 1 outright, 2 placements. Now we'll get into the matchups here, and I got 2 of those for you before we get to the finish line and just start riffing. The first one is going to be Chandler Smith over Caden Honeycutt, minus 120 on DraftKings. The funny thing about this is both of these guys didn't race in this Pocono race last year. Obviously, Chandler was doing other things. Honeycutt, I don't know, I guess because he was part-time. Somebody else was in the ride. Maybe it was Bailey Curry. I don't remember. But Smith makes sense to me here. Honeycutt is a guy that he kind of reminds me of like Eric Jones a little bit in the Cup Series, where like when we go to tracks that he has been proven to be good at, like his on paper favorite tracks, that's where he does well. But on tracks where it has shown in the past that he doesn't. And in a couple starts here at Pocono, like he hasn't looked good at all. There's not even like a silver lining that I can pull from his 2 starts at Pocono that to say like, this is a reason why he'll be fast. So that scares me off a little bit from Honeycutt. His 2 Pocono starts, he's got a 25th place finish and a 20th place finish. But on top of that, his average starting position is dog shit, just awful. I think it's 27th. So really bad average starting position. And that tells me he hasn't figured it out yet. And he's a young driver, only a couple starts. That's not somebody that I really want to trust. And it, to me, kind of pinpoints somebody that we can target and take advantage of. So the fact that the books are giving us this matchup, I'll jump on that. Honeycutt is going off in qualifying 18th out of the 34 drivers. So, that average starting position might not get much better here, especially if they don't unload fast and practice well. Then you look at Smith, 2 truck starts at Pocono, just like Honeycutt. They were only in one race together, and Smith won that one. His average starting position is 6.5, so he's able to get up and qualify well at Pocono. Now, he goes off 3rd from last, so that's going to be helpful to keep that nice average going well. I think that's going to be really helpful for Chandler Smith. He finished 25th in 2021. That was after an issue or a wreck on the track. But he bounced back in 2022 and won the whole damn thing. He won the race in 2022. So that to me is very exciting. In 2025, just apples to apples, these races that we've seen in 13, he's 9-4 against Honeycutt. He beat him at Michigan, which we were on Honeycutt to do well because it was, comp to Kansas, which Honeycutt is good at, kind of like 6 ways from Kevin Bacon. Now we're getting into a secondary comp, Pocono. But Smith, prevailed. And that's kind of just what he's doing this season. He's prevailing. He's going through some stuff. I don't expect Smith to win this race. I don't expect him to compete with Heim, but I think that he can easily beat Caden Honeycutt here because of his experience at this track. I mean, last time he was here, he was in Victory Lane in the trucks, and Honeycutt, not being able to trust him to be fast, win the race, has this. I went through every single matchup I could find on all books, all sports books, and this is the biggest mismatch according to Win the Race, who has this set at -158 fair for Chandler Smith. So that's why I had to throw it into the show here. Chandler Smith over Honeycutt -120. Let's get it while it's hot. And I think we're going to be happy with the results of that one. So let's go to our last bet that we'll call out here. And this is one that we've made some money on already this season. So I mentioned the Win the Race fair odds. This is another one. So it's Garcia over Rhodes for everyone who's listening and not watching this. -115 on DraftKings. They've got these guys kind of neck and neck. And that's my gut instinct is like, this is tough to kind of handicap on a week-to-week basis. But like I said, Garcia, if we took Rhodes, Garcia beat us. And when we took Garcia over Rhodes, he won for us. So we're going to go back to the same bet, and see if we can, get this going. But Win the Race has this fair at -147 for Garcia. So that got the antennas up, just saying like, all right, I got to look into this further here. And we, dig in, and the stats don't jump out to you when you're looking through this. Rhodes, for instance, like he's just okay. 13.6 average finish in his last 5 starts here. He finished 5th in 2020. Take that for what it's worth. Since then, he's got a 17th, a 19th, a 9th, and finished 18th last year. So that's like, I'm not really into it. And in addition, this season for Ben Rhodes has just been gross. Like, I know he got a decent finish at Michigan, or maybe I'm misremembering that, but he just is not the guy that we expect him to be each week. And so with going to a track where recently he hasn't even looked all that good, I'm not interested. So then we go, all right, well, what can Garcia bring to the table for us? Well, his finishes 35th and 21st. So you say to yourself, well, that's not going to hunt. That dog won't hunt, Phil. Well, let me dig in a little bit further for you and try to help you get to this bet here for us. That 35th place finish, Jake Garcia, started 2nd and got into a wreck with 15 laps to go in that race. 88% of the races, 88% of the laps he was in that race were run inside the top 15. He was fast. He was very fast. Ben Rhodes, for comparison, who beat him head to head in that one, Ben Rhodes had just over 50% of his laps run inside the top 15. So that is why you kind of need to take a little step further than just like the outcome. Now, at the end of the day, it scored, 2-0 Rhodes in head-to-head matchups. But I think this is the year where, it changes. Garcia's average starting position is 7.0 in 2 starts. So I like that. We've got this season 8-5 Garcia head-to-head against Rhodes, which is pretty surprising. If you said that at the start of the year, we'd be like, no way. But that is the case. And you look at his consistency this year since the Homestead race. So we're including Homestead in this. He has one finish outside the top 12. And that came at Texas, where he crashed. He finished 21st. One finish outside the top 12 for Garcia. For head-to-head, now, to win the race and all, like, okay, that's not going to help us. But to win head-to-head matchups, I'm all over that kind of a stat, especially against a guy like Rhodes, who's up and down. He's 17th. He's 9th. He's 21st. He's 11th. Like, you can't pin him down. If we see he's fast at Pocono, he's fast this year, fast enough to be inside the top 10 this season, getting points, I like it. So that is kind of where I'm now a believer in this minus 147 number to be fair for Garcia when the race has, and I'll take minus 115 on DraftKings. So Garcia, see if we can get it done for us over Rhodes. It kills me to go to the race and not be on Rhodes because I'm a Ben Rhodes fan, but it must be done. Must be done. So it's Heim outright, Enfinger top 5, Hemrick top 5, Chandler Smith over Honeycutt, and Garcia over Rhodes. Those are the bets for this week. And then just to kind of wrap things up, just to kind of riff here a little bit, I mentioned I was digging in heavy on the head-to-head matchups this week. So a couple that didn't make the cut. Majeski's an interesting cat. I, for whatever reason, thought that he was very good at Pocono in my mind, but his numbers don't say that. He's going up against Brandon Jones, who typically I would like to take advantage of, but I also saw that he had a truck win here in the past, so scares me a little bit. They have him at minus 134 even on win the race at, it's kind of around where he is in the market. So not sure what to do there. Tyler Ankrum was one. I mentioned how I couldn't get McAnally out of my head. I'll probably throw something in on Ankrum myself. I don't know if I don't have the data to be able to present that to anyone watching the show in good faith, because he just hasn't had the finishes that you would expect to be able to throw some money on him and feel good about it. I mean, his finishes are just okay. Going back to 2020 and all the way up to the last year, 9th, 4th, 16th, 12th, 14th. Last year, he started, I think it was on the front row with his teammate. I think McAnally swept the front row last year, if I'm not mistaken, but ends up getting shuffled back. And it seems like at Pocono, when Ankrum gets shuffled around or strategy comes off pit road, losing spots or whatever, he struggles to get that back. So I can't justify, against like Rajah Caruth is who he's up against on basically every sports book. I can't get there, to put it out there because Caruth is just like hovering around the top 10, it seems like, on this track or this track type. So I'll look to do that myself. But Ankrum, he's one that I'm thinking about, and I think he'll be fast in practice and qualifying. He's been fast this year. He's one that I, really am struggling with. And then Stuart Friesen over Tanner Gray was another one. When the race has it fair at minus 144, that's a big discrepancy because they have this even on ESPN bet minus 115. And this is another one that I just struggled with. Friesen obviously coming off this victory 2 weeks ago. Tanner Gray lately just, hasn't been getting it done at Pocono. But when you look at Friesen's numbers specifically at Pocono, these are two guys that have been here. If you go back 5 years, they've been here for 5 years. So Friesen's been like up and down at Pocono. Finished 7th last year, which is solid, but just been up and down. And that's not helpful in head-to-head matchups to me. Whereas Tanner Gray's been like kind of hovering around 14th every year. Maybe you see a top 10 out of him. So he's, tough to bet on. That one I couldn't get to the table on, but we'll see, see if there's anything else that pops up as maybe we get a couple other books putting some head-to-head matchups out there. But those are some other thoughts that we had along the way. So look, I hope everyone has a great Pocono weekend. Again, let me know if might see you up there. And thank you once again for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. Give me a follow at Full Tank Phil on Instagram and X, and let me know who you're on this weekend. Let's cash some tickets and have a good weekend. So see you next time.